Hey guys, it's Cameron here with Emerson Property Management. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons I've learned, things that helped me build up a solid from a portfolio in about 2 years, and now manage that portfolio. Today, guys, I want to talk about move-ins. So we had subscribers, somebody asking like, how do I properly, or how do you guys properly move in a resident? And this is super important because like after the application and screening process, this is how you're going to start your relationship with your tenant. So it's super important to get this right, create a great experience, and start your relationship off on a good foot. So before I get into that, if you guys find this stuff valuable, and only if you find this stuff valuable, we appreciate a like, subscribe, share. If not, give us some valuable feedback. Always open feedback. I always appreciate that from y'all. My handy dandy checklist here, I've got 6 items. Now there's obviously a bunch more stuff that we do to make sure the tenants get in properly and everything's peachy keen. But these are the main items here. So firstly is setting up the portal. So when you get a resident, and let me start off by saying, we put all this stuff on our website. So we send that link to the tenants. We're communicating with them throughout the approval process. Once they get accepted and sign the lease, and then we start the move-in process, we're communicating with them. But this is all on our website so they can go and check every time. They don't have to go through emails. If you guys want to go see this, you can go to our website and check this out. I'll put a link down here or somewhere for you. Okay, so the step 1, set up your portal. So if you're a small mom and pop and you just have 1 or 2 properties, maybe you just give them your banking account. That's totally up to you and your situation. There are a lot of good free options out there. Again, I've got another video up here regarding property management softwares. Again, some of them are free, some of them nickel and dime you to death and might not be worth it. But make sure your resident sets up whatever sort of portal or bank account where they're going to submit maintenance requests. Make sure that you guys have that figured out ahead of time. So you don't want them to get in, they go in and there's some sort of cataclysmic problem or a leaky faucet or a pipe that's burst or something, and they can't get a hold of somebody or they don't know how to. So make sure that's first and foremost always what we want residents to do. The second thing, and this comes up more often than you would care to believe, is we get them to pay first full month's rent. There are some agents we have dealt with recently who claim to have done hundreds of deals or whatever. We always collect first month's rent, full first month's rent. So if the rent's $2,000 a month and they're moving in on the 15th, we still collect a full $2,000 first. And then we prorate the following month to the 15 days. Cameron, why do you do that? Well, what happens if you have a tenant moving in on the 28th, 29th, or 30th of the month? You let them in, you give them access to your property for $50, $100, $150. Then they get keys, they get access. Rent comes around due on the 1st, 3 or 4 or 5 days later, and they don't pay. What do? All you have is a security deposit. You have nothing else. But now you got to start the eviction process, which, could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you're out not just a security deposit or not just a full month's rent, but all you have is their security deposit. They could damage that property well beyond the $2,000 security deposit you would have. So that's why we always collect a first full month's rent. Give yourself time for that check, cashier's check, whatever it is to clear. If you're taking a credit card, electronic payment of some sort, make sure you're giving that enough time to clear. So if it bounces for whatever reason, again, you haven't given them access to your property. So we require 7 business days if they're going to pay on our online portal. We require 7 business days. So just make sure you guys have enough time on that one. The third one, transfer utilities. This comes up from time to time where tenants say they forgot or don't understand or remember, but make sure, especially if you're doing this yourself and you want to move a tenant in, that you're reminding them, again, like I said, we're in constant communication from the time they're approved until they move in, but remind them that, hey, we require you to switch utilities. Now, it's up to you and your personal preference and area whether you want them to have water, gas, electric, all in the tenant's name, like you want to have nothing to do with it, or you want to switch that or keep that in your name and bill them back and only have them switch electric per se in their name. So just make sure whatever you have written in the lease and what y'all have agreed to, you make sure to remind them to do that before they move in. I don't know how many times it's happened, probably more times than I care to admit, that I've seen. And actually there was a big lawsuit over this with an owner that we have with another property management company. But basically somebody dropped the ball and didn't switch utilities and somebody shut them off. It was in the middle of winter in Texas. And if you guys know anything about Texas winters, when it gets cold, pipes don't like that. The owner had a burst pipe with this other management company. Nobody knew. property was vacant, utilities were shut off or not transferred over, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of damage to that home. So this is super, super important. And then Texas, the summers are hotter than Hades, right? So, if you don't have the AC crank and you got the power off, you could start developing mold and God knows what else in that property. So just make sure that the utility transfer and whatever utilities you are having to transfer into their name, that's clear and communicated. The next one, complete the move-in condition forms. So the move-in condition form in Texas, we provide the tenants, we always say 3 days after move-in. So if the move-in's on the 1st, they need to complete that and submit that on their portal by the 4th. That's a form. They'll go through and mark the stuff that's wrong on the property. We've already done a full-blown property inspection with a couple hundred pictures. But what's nice is you're telling them like, hey, if it's not on that move-in condition form that we're going to send you, you're going to get charged for it when you move out. So go lay everything out. And they'll go through with a fine-tooth comb. And sometimes they find really good issues that you want to get back and resolve. So this is something that's a CYA for everybody, a move-in condition form. We don't force anybody to do this, but we always recommend that our residents, we have it as a downloadable form. They download this and submit that for their protection. This is not really a property manager's responsibility per se. Some people think, well, I don't want to move in condition form because I want to be able to charge them for everything. I kind of think that's a slightly unethical. We want to give the tenants every opportunity to mention any damages in the home. So this is something that I believe we should try to get from the tenants. If they don't do it, we can't make them do it. Like I said, we have a full report, but this is something that's a good practice. The last one, this is a welcome gift. I talked about in the beginning, this is a great way to start off your resident on a fantastic experience. So once they're approved, you got all the utilities and all this stuff figured out, they got their portal set up, how are you going to move in? When they move into the property, are they just going to open the lockbox and then boom, there's nothing in the property at all? We do a small package that we send them. So they get in, there's nothing in there, but then they get a package from us. We get it from Etsy. It's nothing fancy. It's like 20 or 30 bucks. It's a little succulent. And then a note from us just saying, we're looking forward to a healthy tenancy. So it's nothing that comes out of Emerson's pocket. That doesn't come out of the owner's pocket. And we do that just as a way to start the relationship off on a right foot. Some people put little bags in the property right before move-in with like toiletries or cleaning supplies or products, or leave people with, their logo on. But yeah, just something as a little small welcome gift. Now, there are people who are vehemently opposed to providing gifts to tenants, thinking, do you have to provide a gift to a tenant? You're paying for a service or getting to live in the property, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't have to be expensive, but some little small thing. It can be a thank you card. It can be something very small. It starts a relationship off on a right note. And I can tell you, we get a lot of comments on this. They appreciate this stuff. And it just shows that we're not all dollars and cents. We care. And when you treat somebody like this and they get a little gift, they might not be as much of a pain in the rear end when, oh, there's some scuffs over here. Oh, there's, this light bulb's out, but I'll change that. I'm not going to put in a maintenance request for that. Don't worry about it. So, this just gets the relationship off on a good foot. Then we do a move-in call. So the last thing that we do, once a tenant gets access, we send them a link to schedule a call with our resident services department. And what that means, it's just a fancy way of saying the person that handles all the resident relations. And they walk through, do you know where your breaker box and water shutoff valve is? So breaker box, if you guys aren't familiar with that, all those breakers that when you plug in a toaster and the power goes out, if you know where that is, the tenants go over and they flip them and they can check. They don't have to submit a maintenance request for that. That saves you so much time and money and resources. So water shut off for obvious reasons in Texas when you have a burst pipe, you don't want to flood the house. And then talk through, do they know how to submit maintenance requests? Do you know our emergency number that we have? Just walking through that, asking them if they have any questions, they know how to get mailbox keys, just going through some general questions and making sure that they had a good move-in experience. And again, sometimes they elevate things. Oh, hey, I didn't know, or I'm having trouble logging into my account. We can go right in there, reset their password, or make sure that everything was right on there and we didn't fat finger something. It's just this little small checklist. Now, again, there's a lot of emails and communication going on behind the scenes, but with this basic thing, I think as a landlord, whether you have 1 or 100 homes, this is a great, easy way to stay organized and get the tenant relationship off on a right foot. Set up the tenant on the portal, make sure they know where they're paying rent, get full first month's rent. Never allow anybody in the house without a full first month's rent. Make sure utilities are understood. Complete that move-in condition form. Send them a little welcome gift. Doesn't have to be anything expensive. And like I said, can't even be as small as a little card or something. And then do a little quick move-in call with them. It'll You're being proactive instead of reactive. You're letting them know, hey, I just want to check in on you, see how the experience is going. I hope that's helpful. Again, I think this is a way, and if you guys have any other feedback or you guys do it a different way, I'm interested to hear if you guys have a better workflow or better checklist that helps the tenants move into the property and eliminates a lot of issues and starts your relationship off on the right foot. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.